All right, good morning. We're with Vicky Rideout of VJR Consulting here at Common Sense Media event today in DC to talk about some new research that Vicky will be presenting. And it's a 0 to 8 report looking at media use with children. And I was wondering if you could just give a quick overview about, there's so much in the report, but some of the great stuff that's in there.
Well, thanks, Scott. Well, the main findings are we just document the amount of time that kids spend with all the different types of media, including screen media as well as print and music. And on average, among 0 to 8-year-olds, they spend an average of about 3 hours a day with media, and it's about 2 hours and 15 minutes a day with screen media.
Wow, and there's a number of ways of slicing that data in your report. There's socioeconomic. There's a differentiation between digital media versus mobile media, could you comment about some of the differences about economic income and media use?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in general, we find that children from lower income families spend a bit more time with media than children from higher income families. Children from ethnic minorities, so African American and Hispanic kids, spend a lot more time with media, and especially with television, but across all of the different media, than white children do. We find, of course, media use differs by the age of the child. The younger children spend less time with media, the older children spend more time with media, and it differs across platform. And I think one of the key things from this study is that television is, the elephant in the room. TV is still king, and kids are spending an average of about an hour and 45 minutes a day watching TV and videos. And, even with all of, all of these great new, exciting types of platforms like the smartphone and the iPad and the iPod, television is still really dominating those media.
Excellent point. I think one of the stats I remember from your report is children are exposed to television viewing as early as 9 months on average, whereas other devices, it's certainly a little bit older. I know it was 3 years and a few months related to mobile devices. And there's a concept that you introduced in your paper called the app gap. Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we've heard in the past about the digital divide, right? The difference in the percent of kids who have a computer at home based on income and socioeconomic status in general. And what we find now is, first of all, that the digital divide is still there, and it's still really big. So lower income kids, kids from families earning less than $35,000 a year, are much less likely to have a computer at home. Less than half of them, or about half of them rather, have a computer at home, compared to about 90% of kids from families with incomes of $75,000 or more. Now, there's also this thing called the app gap, which is that for when it comes to using new media, and a video iPod, an iPad, downloading educational games and apps, smartphones, lower income kids are also a lot less likely, even less likely to have those media and those applications available to them than higher income kids are.
It's pretty amazing, and one of the interesting things too about when you look at the wide spectrum of how people use media, you had worked on a report in 2006 called The Media Family,
right,
with the Kaiser Family Foundation.
Right.
And in that, the striking statistic was how many televisions are in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And that's something that you touch on in this report as well. I was wondering if you could comment on that.
Yeah, it's about 42%, I think, of kids in the 0 to 8-year-old age range who have a television in their bedroom. And interestingly, in this report, even among the kids who are under 2 years old, we find almost a third of them, 3 out of 10, have a TV in their bedroom. And that's actually a big increase in that particular age group from what we had found with the last study in 2005. And, I guess I would just say that kids who have a television in their bedroom are more likely, not surprisingly, to watch more television, to be multitaskers. And there has been research that has linked television in the bedroom to negative outcomes on sleep or obesity and things like that. And one of the recommendations that the American Academy of Pediatrics has is for parents not to put television sets in their kids' bedrooms. So I think that this is something that, maybe something that parents want to take another look at.
And while this is a surprising number, this percentage is quite shocking of how many kids have a television set in their bedroom or a video game console or even a computer. The numbers vary again by economic and ethnic background. I was shocked by how high the number was getting for some lower income families with a television in the bedroom.
Yeah, it's as high as 60%, and I'm wondering if that has to do with the economic conditions that we're in these days, and also if the increase that we've seen has to do with that. If people are doubling up bedrooms because people are having so many troubles with housing, and kids are more likely to share a bedroom with an older sibling, maybe even with their parents, maybe even their bedroom is the living room where the television is. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something, if that's related somehow.
Interesting. I wonder too, although you can't, or maybe you can tease this out of data or not, where when it comes to media use and educational content, it was surprising to find how that varies across platform, across income, across ages. But for lower income, they largely, in terms of educational content, all they have to rely on is broadcast TV, not cable.
Yeah, and I think this is really important because this is one of the most positive aspects of media use for kids, is the potential for media to help with learning, informal learning outside of the school environment. And that's especially important for lower income kids who may have fewer opportunities for preschool or for other types of learning options. And so we've always touted the potential of media, and in fact there's been some good research that has documented that high quality curriculum-based educational television can make a difference if it's age appropriate for kids lifelong in terms of their learning. And so we really wanted to look and see how educational media were being used by kids, which media were more likely to be used, and so on. We found that overall, among all kids, educational television is the most frequently accessed, more so than computer programs, games on the computer, or even new apps and so on iPads. Among low-income kids, it's absolutely educational television. They access that more than high-income kids do. And everybody has a television. It's just about universal, and there's no difference based on income. As soon as you get to cable, you're losing about half of the lower-income kids. And again, that may be a function of the economic climate that we're living in, because I think that number is going down. But so if you really want to reach low-income kids with educational content, it's broadcast television is where it's at.
Great. It made me wonder as I was reading through through your report, do you have any thoughts or suggestions for those that are in the media creation business for children?
I do. I think that, number one, we really have to pay attention to television, because that is the content that kids are spending hours and hours a day consuming. And so when it's entertainment content, that means we've really got to focus on issues about gender roles and ethnic roles and violence, and make sure it's high quality entertainment content for kids. And we need to make sure that that there is plenty of educational content in broadcast television, and that too is the high quality kind that we know can make a difference.
One of the things I noticed being involved in media development myself is there is a huge kind of a glow around developing educational apps at the same time, that if you were looking to invest your time in developing something educational, it's only 11% of your survey have actually ever used mobile content. And that you even have some great data about how many people have actually downloaded an app. And it's surprising, I think it was 38% didn't even know what that meant.
For low-income kids, that's the case, yes. Across kids in general, about 38% have used a mobile digital device. But they're much less likely to use educational games and apps on mobile devices than they are to use educational television. And the penetration just isn't there yet. And I think it's true that a lot of the government and foundation funding and interest is with apps and with the newer platforms. And it's easy to understand why. The potential, I mean, they're very exciting. The potential is huge, I think. But we just can't lose sight of the fact that if you actually want to reach the lower income kids now and in the foreseeable future, you cannot walk away from educational television.
I've been a fan, Vicki, of all your research. The various reports over the years, taking a 5-year look at media and children, and this new report. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait 5 years for it. What's on the horizon related to this body of research and what you're thinking in the years to come?
Well, Common Sense Media has just decided to launch a new research program on kids and media, and they're going to be working with me through my company, VJR Consulting, to do the research, so I'm really excited about that. Next up for us is a survey with teens about the socio-emotional impact of online life. We'll be doing surveys with parents, and then we'll be replicating these studies so that this study of media use among kids 0 to 8 will be the baseline, and we will be continuing these every few years. I'm not sure how many years makes sense. We're trying to think that through now. I think 5 years is probably too long, and 2 years may be too soon. So we'll see what we come up with.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Vicki. We wish you all great success. Keep on publishing more great research like this.
Well, thank you as well.
We wish you all great